The 60-day race to replace impeached President Park Geun-hye was fast, intense, and competitive. The excitement over this campaign has been running very high, with the public showing a greater interest in politics than in the past. Let's start off by taking a look at the voter turnout at this hour. For that, we connect with our Oh Jung-hee at the National Election Commission. Jung-hee, the turnout was lower during the morning than what many had expected. How are things looking now?
Good afternoon, Daeun. We're now past the halfway point in today's voting, and the voter turnout, which seemed to be a little bit sluggish this morning, shot up greatly after tallies from the early voting and overseas voting got incorporated into the total at 1 p.m. The voter turnout of 1 p.m. stood at 55.4%, which is almost 10% higher than for the previous election in 2012. There are roughly 42.4 million people registered to vote this year, up 5% from 2012, and so far over 23 million have cast their ballots. With turnout soaring to a record high and many citizens heading out to the polls in the afternoon as well, all eyes are on how high the voter turnout could go.
And Jung-hee, like you've briefly mentioned, the National Election Commission had predicted a record voter turnout in this election. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. The National Election Commission sees that the voter turnout for this year's election could exceed even 80%. If that's the case, this is the first time in 20 years Korea sees the voter turnout of over 80%. The last time it was this high was for the 1997 presidential election, when the voter turnout stood at 80.7%. The NEC says voters have become much more proactive about politics in this year's election after the massive corruption scandal that led to the impeachment of the president. And according to a recent survey by the NEC, roughly 87% of eligible voters have responded that they will vote today. On top of that, the high turnout rate of over 26% during the two-day early voting period last week could inspire the remaining voters. Also, the polls will be open 2 hours longer this year than they were for the previous election, which could also push up turnout in the end. There are almost 14,000 polling stations nationwide, and they will be open until 8 p.m. After that, the ballot boxes will be transported to 251 counting centers around the country. The vote counting will start at 8:30 p.m., and early results could start coming in as early as 10 p.m. tonight. That's all from me for now. Back to you, Dan.